Hello, Browns fans. Welcome on into our first edition of, I think, what we're calling Brownie Breakdown, Anthony. It should be, we're workshopping the name still, but I think that's a good starting point, and we're very much looking forward to debuting this for you and rolling through the rest of the season with you guys, where basically the gist of this is going to be once a week, we'll look back on whatever the result of the previous Browns game was, whether it's a win or a loss. We'll pull out a number of plays, and we'll sort of dissect, mostly Anthony dissecting, but we'll sort of together, we'll talk through some of these things and just what happened, maybe what went wrong on a play, what went right on a play, what we're noticing about the Browns each and every single week and their tendencies and things. So I'm looking forward to doing this because, Anthony, I know we've never been able to work together. This is our first time working together in this sort of capacity on this type of stuff. I love like the film breakdown stuff because I feel like football is so unique. And that even when you think you know everything, there's always something new that you can learn just based off of how a team's doing things, the plays that they run, and having your eye and your expertise and sort of being able to bounce off each other. I think is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward
to it. No question about it. Film breakdown is the best thing for any fan to do because we get so caught up in this world of like, oh my gosh, this guy stinks, or this guy's all horrible, or we're so close. And then you like watch the film and you're like, oh, everything's connected. Like when you're watching the Browns on offense, like, hey, it looked like, for example, we'll do the strip sack, but I'll get into everyone saying it's Jedrick Wills' fault. Well, maybe it's the quarterback's fault for not helping the protection out. So it's just so much, there's so much layers to it. And it's so critical to watch as a fan who consume the game, especially at the level that you and I do. And anybody watching this does, that it's you can see how close the Browns are. The fact that truly, I texted you this the other night. They probably should have won this game by 14 or 17 points. They were this close on a couple plays. But I'm excited to get into it. And for those who don't know, just a quick little background on me. By no means am I an NFL expert, but I have played my fair share of football. Was a 3-year starting quarterback for John Carroll University, small Division III school in the on the east side of Cleveland. Coached high school football for a number of years after my playing days were complete. So I've seen a ton of football, and I understand it at a college level. And I can see, just have the eye. I'm used to watching film, used to watching tape. So that's kind of where my perspective comes in when we're breaking this kind of stuff down.
I'm glad you got your bona fides in there. Make sure everybody knows your credentials, and it certainly makes it's going to make for a fun show. So I'm excited about this episode in particular because, Anthony, we know there was a lot of controversy over that 3rd and 3 play that Stefanski recalled at the very end of the game, the interception that PJ Walker throws that then leads to the Seahawks touchdown on the other end. And so to be clear, we're going to go in kind of chronological order here. We have a number of plays starting with the Browns' first drive of the game and so on and so forth. And so if you want to get to that play and get Anthony's perspective on what if it was the right call, if it was the wrong call, you're going to have to wait till kind of the end here. So stick with us, but we have some good stuff along the way. I'll let you take the floor here, Anthony, and get us started with our first play of the day that you wanted to break down.
For sure. So we'll get into this. And like Spence just said, we'll hit this kind of chronologically. So there will be some defense stuff mixed in here, as well as offensive stuff. And, some good, some bad. So we'll, kind of get just going right from the jump. So in this situation right here, one of the things that was really obvious from my perspective is what Seattle learned from Indianapolis the week before, right? We think back a week ago, we go into Indy, we have the best defense of all time. Like we're going to be the 85 Bears and things are great. And then Indy kind of dices us up. And, Shane Steichen, I think, is one of the better play callers in all of the NFL. And just had a really great plan and a great scheme. And I think there were definitely some threads that Seattle took from Indianapolis. And one of those is using motion to create space. And when you're playing a team that like the Browns, who are primarily, and they live in the man-to-man coverage space, you can use motion to create avenues and create space. So as you can see here, quarterbacks are taught very easily how to identify man and zone. Like this, in theory, looks like a punt. Looks like a punt return where you got man everywhere. You got Greg Newsome. He's going to be trailing Tyler Lockett here in the slot. You got Denzel Ward locked down here. You got Juan Thornhill in the middle of the field. You got a tight end here on this side being guarded by, looks like it's MJ. So it's like Grant Delpit. So you got man everywhere. And then you're going to use this motion to create space. Okay. And now your linebackers who are both responsible for the running backs get washed out. And when you're in man coverage, there's a good clip later on of these guys are all locked on their defenders. So we got eyes on my receiver here. I got eyes locked on here, eyes on here. And now when your linebackers get washed out, there's nobody left. There's nobody left in this because I think it was a bad fit by JOK. And because we live in this man coverage defense, these types of plays are going to happen. And it's great hustle there by Juan Thornhill to kind of track him down. But one of the things is, man, when you're in that man-to-man coverage, it's really tough when you start using motion and getting guys flying across the field because really you just use motion to block these three guys who are down at the bottom of the screen, and now you're one-on-one with the safety, and Kenneth Walker's good enough to make that really challenging.
So this is one of those instances, Anthony, where we know this Browns secondary in particular really likes man-to-man. We heard a lot of that last year when they were playing under Joe Woods, where it was like, well, why don't they play more man? These guys always talk about how they like man, but they were constantly in zone. And this is maybe sometimes the downside of that is that it exposes you to a play like this where you have guys in places where there's holes up the middle, and then a running back can exploit that.
Certainly. And it's one of those things where that's just the nature of the beast, right? You just have to live with it. And it puts a lot of stress on the linebacker play. Like if JOK doesn't get washed down, this could potentially be a 7-yard gain. Instead, he gets washed out and he gets a 30-yarder, but it's just one of those things you have to live with. And you just have to buckle down in different areas. And unfortunately, at the start of the game, the Browns didn't do this. So I show a clip of man-to-man coverage and how that kind of detriments us. Well, we're in the low red area, and the way these teams break this down is my thought is that when you get down there, and we'll see this kind of as a theme going throughout the year, but looks like potentially when the Browns get into this low red zone area, they potentially may sprinkle in a little type of zone coverage. And this one was just a disappointing coverage bust by it was Juan Thornhill here, and you see him at the bottom of our screen because the Browns have this covered up. It's third down. And you have the potential to get off the field. It's 3rd and 7, I believe. So when you're playing, this is a good place to pause it. This is just a straight cover 3 look where Juan Thornhill's right here. He started as a safety in the post, and his responsibility is to roll down into the flat there. Denzel Ward's going to have your deep third there. You got a deep third in the center of the field, a deep third at the top of our screen, and then these linebackers kind of play underneath. Okay, so that's what it's supposed to look like when you draw this up. Think Madden, right? You're thinking Madden. You got the three bubbles up top. So here's what the coverage is supposed to be. Well, Juan's got his eyes in the backfield, and he's not really doing his responsibility. If he's just in his responsibility and he gets to Tyler Lockett in the flat, look at this. Everything's covered up. Denzel's locked on him. We got no throw here, no throw on this side. Maybe you have a check down, but you can rally to it. But if Juan's in this position, this throw is not available to Geno Smith. Instead, he's out of position, and we're able to complete it. Look, here's the 3rd down stick. So you got 3rd and 8, and they're able to get 9 yards and move the chains and set up a 1st and goal. This one was more of a disappointing, just do your responsibility, have your eyes in the right spot, and the Browns would have been in better shape.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, especially because you bring up at the top of the show, everything being connected. And this is an instance where every little detail truly matters. And we can sit there and say, well, it's this guy's fault, it's that guy's fault when you're watching in real time. But when you get into kind of the nitty gritty of this, you realize just something as simple as Juan Thornhill playing a little bit too far back in that zone than where he should be opens up an opportunity for Seattle to convert here and then obviously get a first set themselves up with a 1st and goal.
For sure. And that changes the game, right? When it all comes down to the end and the Browns lose by 4 points, right? Hey, if they hold them to 3 there instead of 7, there's a difference. So all these things, man, it's like football is such a game of inches, and we're going to see this in a couple different areas. But not only is it a game of inches, but you never know what play is going to be the difference. You got 60 minutes worth of plays. They're going to run 80, 90 plays in a game. You never know which 1 or 2 is going to be the difference. And sometimes it happens early and sometimes it happens late. So
what do you got for us on this next one?
On the offensive side of the ball, the theme of this game is I'm going to preface this by saying I love P.J. Walker's competitiveness, and what he's done for the Browns in this month of him playing, I think has been spectacular. Leading them to a 2-1 record, just getting the job done. The negative about him is that he plays sometimes like a practice squad guy, and he does lock onto receivers, and he's a tough time coming off of them. And Amari Cooper is obviously hey, and hand up, if I was in this position, I'd throw it to Amari as many times as I could. But sometimes you got to work through this. But what we didn't show here, I took it out, but on the first play of this, or on the first drive of the game where the Browns go 3 and out, Amari had a slant where he dropped it. PJ missed him a little bit on the backside, but Amari catches it 10 out of 10 times, or 9 out of 10 times. And I put it in there because when receivers do that early, I said it live, like when I was watching the game with some of my friends, and I was like, he's not going to drop one the rest of the game. Like, that's one of those where, like, a great receiver will have a kind of a mental mix up at the beginning, and then they come back and they're nails the rest of the game. So this is one I love here. This is a pretty sneaky play. Amari's at the bottom of our screen, and we have a little hitch and go. Okay, so what'll happen here is Reek Woolen, he'll fly out and cover the flat. You have a running back in motion out of the backfield. And then Amari just comes one-on-one here with Julian Love. He's going to run this little sweet little hitch, and then he's going to curl up and take off up the seam, or excuse me, up the sidelines. And you see him hitch up there. PJ's looking, and then he spins out of it. And he's not necessarily open. I think this is a really good shot, a really good throw by PJ, put him in a good spot. But Amari just makes a circus catch there. And unreal. That's something. When 2 gets going, man, he's pretty special, and he can catch everything. But this is a good start for him.
Yeah, listen, you mentioned locking in on him, and I think when we get to the 3rd and 3 play, I think that's another instance where, hey, he knew from the start he was going to Amari Cooper. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But on that play specifically that you showed, like, you do have to give props to PJ Walker on that one, because that ball is put exactly where you want it to be, towards the sideline, in between sort of the defender that was playing down, covering the receiver that was kind of underneath there, and the receiver or the corner over the top, who you said was Julian Love. Like, it was very well placed in a spot where, when you got a guy like Amari Cooper, that guy can make that catch. Like, that was all around. That was a good play.
Absolutely. And it's a huge play because, right, remember, the Browns are kind of stalling at this point. You're in moving field, 12s are going crazy. Like, this is a big play to get the chains moving. Now you go from the penthouse, great play. Very next play, we're going to the outhouse, man, because this was a tough one. And PJ acknowledged this after the game. And this is a good one for, I think, fans to notice, like, how hard this is and how, what needs to happen. So, in this protection, it looks like we go empty here. So we got on the top of our screen, Amari's here. He's in the slot. But then you have the running back put out to the top. You can't see him. But you have a 5-man protection.
Can we talk about, because I know a lot of fans complain on social media a lot about just why Stefanski calls a lot of empty and why he motions a lot of running backs out of the backfield. I think you and I know the importance of something like that, but can you kind of explain that as well?
Yeah, so the empty question is a good one, and it's a great conversation, because what it does is, for a quarterback, it takes away, it tries to eliminate all any type of like mirroring, or any type of like faking out the defense can do, because they have to get in their positions, right? When there's a running back in the backfield, or you have tight ends locked in, they can kind of disguise different stuff and move around, and it makes it really challenging. When you go empty, they have to kind of get in their final form or get really close to it. So that's the good part. The bad part is that you only have 5 guys in protection. So you're using a pre-snap look and you're sacrificing some protection ability. So, and this one's a perfect example. We get an empty. And personally, when you have a good quarterback or your starter, I would do this more. I personally don't love the amount
PJ
of
Walker,
time.
it's tough. Yeah.
It's tough because it puts you in a hard spot. Like, you have to make these decisions quickly, and bad stuff can happen when you don't. But when you have your starter in there, or a more veteran guy who's seen it a bunch of times, like, then you feel really comfortable doing it. In this situation, right, there's a dead giveaway right here. And PJ acknowledged this after the game, right? This guy, this is our blitzer here. He's the one who makes the play. Sorry, that's a bad circle. But he's being stacked by the safety. So either something should trigger right in your head. This doesn't make sense from a coverage perspective to have 2 guys standing over one, right? What that means is something's up. Like, if it smells fishy and looks fishy, it is fishy. Like, there's something going on here where he needs to flip this protection, and you'll see it. I'll stop the picture right here. Okay, so 56 comes on a blitz. Right. And we knew it because, hey, he was stacked over top of it. This doesn't look right. He's on a blitz. what he should have done is flip the protection. You see a double team up here with Wyatt Teller and Ethan Posick. Then you got DeJuan Jones one-on-one, and then you have Joel one-on-one and Jed one-on-one down here, and you have a free blitzer. Well, you have two options. Whether option one is flip the protection and move this to be Wyatt one-on-one, get Posick over here helping to the left, so that way Joel can slide this way and take the blitzer. Or you don't flip the protection and you got to throw hot off of this blitz, which means he's got to be looking this way. And here's your hot route. Okay. It's Donovan Peoples-Jones, RIP. Good luck in Detroit,
well,
man.
He didn't die, but yeah, RIP to his Browns career.
I'm going to miss him a ton, and I'm happy for him. But you either flip the protection or you throw your hot on the blitz. Now, mind you, it's 3rd and 3. Okay. We have to get 3 yards to move the chains. What we have up is what's called a hank route, which is a curl over the ball, a curl out, a deeper curl here, and a deeper curl here. And then you got 2 guys in the flats. Well, if you're PJ Walker, you're like, I need 3 yards. If I don't flip this protection, I'm throwing it to Donovan. He's got 8 yards of space. He can make this catch, and if he makes a miss, gets the first down. And if he doesn't, he doesn't, and we get tackled for a no-yard gain and you punt. But what can't happen is you see the free blitzer, take a full drop, and then give up a strip sack. Now, when we watched this on Sunday, everyone's like, oh my gosh, Jed Wills didn't block anybody. Well, it wasn't his responsibility to block this guy. This wasn't his guy to block. His guy to block was a defensive end. And at the very last second, he's like, uh-oh, free runner. I'm going to try. And it looks like it's Jed Wills' fault. This is not Jedrick Wills' responsibility here. And, that's the tough part about, this thing with all of it's connected.
Yeah. In relation to Jed, I am curious though, like everything you're saying makes a ton of sense. Not his fault in that instance because the quarterback didn't help him with changing the protection, and it ends up looking like it's his fault on tape for a lot of people. I get that. But when you're I guess it doesn't matter what offensive lineman you are. If you're the tackle, guard, whatever, if you see that happen, like you have 2 free runners coming at you, I've always kind of heard like your job is to take the most dangerous one. So in that instance, like should Jed have taken the inside guy or should he have taken the outside guy that he was originally responsible for?
Yeah, it's a really good
PJ
question.
Walker
right?
More time, you think?
For Jed, it's like, okay. And you could even I'd love to get like Joe Thomas's perspective on this because in my mind, the most dangerous guy to Jed is the guy lined up in front of him. Okay. Because in his mind, he's like, all right, if PJ didn't turn this protection to the left side, he's throwing hot off this blitzer. So that's his guy. Right. And it goes back to even what we just talked about with Juan Thornhill just a minute ago. Like, do your responsibility. If you do your job, then everything should work. Okay, so Jed's job is like to take his blocker or his guy right here, 52. But he sees this guy coming, and he's like, it's really tough. Joe Thomas would have got a hand on both of them and tried to stop him. It's a really, really hard play to kind of accomplish. And it's like it's almost like a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of a situation where he puts your left tackle in a really, really tough spot there.
And it did seem like Jed, I know from the back angle too, when I watched it, like it looked like he tried to sort of do what you mentioned, like he tried to sort of get the guy he was responsible for and then like sort of shift himself to try to get the other guy and at least slow him down. And it just didn't work. And you're right. Like when they showed that replay on the game during the game, it was an instantaneous, well, this is obviously Jed Witt's fault. And then it was really like, okay, I watched it and initially I was like, oh boy, Jed. And then when you saw the back angle, I was like, well, I don't know that that's all on him when he's got 2 guys coming right at him. Like, I don't think that's fully his fault. So
really tough. It's a really tough play, and you just got to bank on your quarterback not to put you in a tough position. But regardless,
I'm glad we broke that one down though, because I think that's a good clarification on him and that his responsibility in that position.
Certainly, and it's a tough one. So on the flip side of things, what you saw Seattle do on Sunday, especially early on and not so much later on, but was play very good complementary football. We're like, hey, this is the very next drive where they turn the ball over, the Browns turn it over at midfield, and they cash it in with a touchdown. Like that's what it has to be when you talk complimentary football. And this one hurts because I'm going to say it 100 times, game of inches. Like this one's a tough one. You get Zadarius Smith, who's one of the best pass rushers in all of football. He's just like can't get a sack this year. He's got one, and it came on the last play against Indy. But like he's got Geno in his hands. Like he's got him, and everyone's covered up really well. But Geno's able to athletically spin out. The back view's hilarious. He's jumping over it. Like Geno's Gino's really one of my favorite guys to watch because he is so athletic, and it's hard not to be a fan of him. But he makes a great play.
Everybody wrote him off, and he didn't write back. So.
He ain't right back. He ain't right back. He's my guy.
Such a good line. That was so hilarious.
It's so good. It's so good. And that's, he's such an easy guy to root for. But again, Spence, it's third down here. Like, it's third down. You have to get off the field. And Z's got him in his grasp. Okay, got him, and he gets out of it. And you're feel good about, hey, if he takes off and runs. But another detriment to man-to-man coverage is these guys have to cover for a long time. Yeah. And Tyler Lockett's one of the best in the league, man. Both him and DK. Watch this. This is what they call scramble drill. Like, their routes are coming this way, whatever they are. And they see Gino get into some trouble. Watch them both at the same exact time turn and flip their hips and go. Like, that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. And everyone's covered up. Like MJ had good coverage on DK. Greg had good coverage on Tyler Lockett. But hey, they flip their hips and do that, and you catch a perfect ball, and it's like, oh my gosh, they were this close to having a perfect play. And again, taking 7 points off the board and forcing them to kick a field goal where it could be, right, 2 third downs now in the first 2 drives where the Browns should have gotten off the field, where touchdowns happen instead of field goals, and it's 14-0 instead of 6-0. Like, that's how close they were on Sunday.
I remember even watching that play live. Like, that was just one of those, you just kind of throw your hands up like you're literally doing on this broadcast right now. Like, Zadarius Smith almost had him. You had everything locked up, and then like fluky things can happen when you don't get, like, if one thing goes wrong or you slip off of a tackle or the guy breaks the tackle. And that's where this is the fun part of football too, because yes, like, you can do everything right on the defensive end, on the offensive end, whatever. And then sometimes there's just players, man, who can just make plays. I mean, Myles Garrett's a perfect example of that, right? Like, you could do everything right against Myles Garrett, double team him, whatever, and he could still just get to the quarterback because he's a freak athlete of a player. Like, it's crazy how that stuff and that's where it's so like fascinating when you watch football, and why we're so intrigued by it, because it's these athletes who are all playing at this high level, and then every now and then you get these moments where it's just like, how the hell did this person do this thing? Or like, how did that play? So it's I think that's a testament. And then again, that's not necessarily like Geno Smith isn't the best quarterback in the NFL. We know that, but even in an instant like that, like, he's an athletic guy, he makes a guy miss, and it's a benefit of the Seahawks where they get something out of it in a touchdown.
It's my favorite thing ever. It's the balance between X's and O's and Johnny's and Joe's. Like, that's what coaches say all the time. Like, you could scheme it up exactly what you said, and then Myles Garrett wrecks an entire play because he goes through 4 guys and like it works out. So that's a fun one. Keep that one in your back pocket. X's and O's versus Johnny's and Joe's.
I like that. I've heard that before. I like it a lot.
All right, here's your favorite part of the game. We go, and honestly, my favorite part, right? Down 14-0, crowd's going nuts. Seahawks look great in their throwback uniforms, and we get the Kevin Stefanski special. 3 straight screens that go 70 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, this was a great
first one here to Kareem Hunt. I love Kareem Hunt. Man, this is just, I mean, he's perfect. The where he's at in his career, he's perfect right now for Kevin Stefanski, where they kind of line him up as a tight end, kind of has that little fake block, the throw by, and spin him back, and we get a quick 10-yard gain here to kind of start this drive. 15-yarder. And then we go, hey, Pierre Strong. We'll have to get into a Pierre Strong segment because I think he's got some juice to him. But this was a fun one here where you're using Eli Moore, motioning him into the backfield, just kind of creating some window dressing to kind of line stuff up, faking it to Pierre, getting the rush going, and then setting this one up. When you see this, you're like, oh, baby, like, this is the picture you want, man. This is a teach tape screen. Like, you got 3 guys out there for 2 Seattle guys, and then Pierre Strong hits that second gear, man, and he's going. He looked good.
It felt like on this drive, too, like it was the perfect sequence and the perfect timing for these screenplays when you have a Seahawks defense that is very aggressive. They like to get after the quarterback, obviously. I think coming into this game, they had like 11 different players who had a sack or something like that. And on top of that, like, you caught them in zone. So it was a lot of guys kind of spread out in different places as the play sort of developed, and then that created the gaps for them to run through. And then off of that, I know you're going to get to this play now next. Then the Njoku touchdown was sort of the same ilk of it's not exactly a screen because it's kind of like a slip, and he gets open over the middle. But I love this play to sort of bookend that drive and just in general. And it just showed like Stefanski clearly noticed something that he could exploit with his defense, and it worked for perfection on this entire drive.
And think about it too, exactly to your point. Like they go up 14-0, they have all the momentum, and now each one of those 4 defensive linemen want to make another game-changing play. So they're pinning their ears back, and they're like, "We're getting after this quarterback. We're putting our heads down and going." And I thought they timed him, Stefanski and AVP timed this setup perfectly. So this is called a dual screen, and a lot of teams have this where you'll screen out left, and then you'll have you'll have 2 screens. That's why it's called that. And there's a key on it where you can, if something doesn't look right on this way, you flip back to the other side and you throw it. Well, adding that little wrinkle in with Njoku flying up the seam, I mean, this is sick. They did it once last year with against Pittsburgh in week 17 or week 18, and it got called back for illegal man downfield. And look at Wyatt Teller. You'll watch him here, and Posick too. Posick's hilarious. Here, look, he like throws his arms back like, "Hey, I'm still behind the line of scrimmage." Teller maybe could have gotten something, but basically they just had them all run straight down the line. There's Petonio there's Posick, there's Teller, and then you got Jed and Dewan playing their tackle positions. But this is so good, right? Fake your screen to the left. You see Pierre Strong throw his arms up on the right side there, and then Njoku's cut free right down the seam. And this was awesome. It
timed out perfectly too, because if PJ Walker throws that ball any later, it might get intercepted because there's the defender right there. This guy who's leaving Posick, you got to see him like he's got his arm out, like maybe he deflects that down. He threw it at the exact perfect time. And really, like this is also a testament to like I think Njoku is such a good pass blocker that he's able to fake those, and guys think like he's actually blocking for something, and then he quickly sort of just, leaked out over the middle, and it hits for the big gain and the touchdown. So, yeah, a long overdue touchdown, I think, for Njoku, but a great play. I loved this play in real time.
It was so good. It was so well timed, so well executed, and they needed it, man. They needed it so badly to kind of hang in this game. And it was awesome. So it was good to get Chief in the end zone. That was great. All right. So then we forced a 3 and out, right? So remember, the Browns buckled down 14-0. Defense kind of locks down. And that's what they're good at, right? You take the good with the bad. The bad is going to be, hey, you're going to give up chunk plays. You just are. But when you play this aggressive style defense, there'll be times when you have to make a quarterback be on for 60 minutes. And that's really, really hard to do. So they stop them, force a punt. This one hurts, man. This one hurts. And I'd love to see the coaching points on this, because we go play action, which we love to do. Okay. And for what the quarterback's reading here is he just has his eyes on this middle of the field safety. Okay. And the reason is you have this crosser, this deep crosser coming. Right. You see this, every NFL team runs some kind of version of this. But then you have what looks to me like it could be an option route where Eli either stops and runs a curl or continues up the field based on what his leverage is on that corner. Now, what PJ sees is kind of what I see, okay? Eli's gone, man. Right here, you're thinking, and PJ's throwing this. He's already made his decision. Like, if he's even, he's leaving, man. And if you give this ball right out here somewhere, like Eli can run underneath of it and potentially have a big play. Well, Eli feels it differently and shuts his route down. And it's like, man, what's the coach? I'd love to understand, like, hey, be in the film room on Monday, and just be like, hey, what was the coaching point here? Because to me, it felt like he should have continued his route down the field. Instead, he shut it down. And this is a great one. Like, even on the broadcast, they're like, oh, not on the same page, which they weren't. And there's like, PJ, like, is not seeing it well. But it's like, hey, I'm throwing this thing. I'm throwing this thing up the field to go. Eli saw it differently and kind of shut it down there. So
what's interesting about that play too, as you talk about having the option to do either out, and I think clearly I think that's what's happening here, because it looks like he's trying to go deep, and then he, like you said, he diverts and goes with the hitch, or the curl rather. But yeah, I wonder too if you're the receiver in that situation, if you're Elijah Moore, if your thought is, well, hey, my quarterback's not Deshaun Watson, it's PJ Walker, do I think he can get me a deep ball down the field where I need it to be? And am I going to kind of am I going to overrun the football? And so maybe that's why, that's another nuance to this conversation too, of knowing who's under center. Does that impact what the receiver's doing on the play as well?
For sure. It's such a good point. It's like, hey, is PJ seeing this the same way I am? Because, hey, I got hands on me here at the 35. Maybe he thinks that I'm not going to be able to beat him deep, and instead I'm going to just stop it,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's tough, but like this is a missed opportunity. This could have been a huge play, but it ends up being a missed chance for the Browns there. But coming to save the day, Amari Cooper. This is sweet here. So this is kind of your standard, what they call a smash concept. Okay. And you can get to it a number of different ways. The Browns here, they get to it by condensing Amari's split, and he does this little inside release, vertical corner. And then the back comes into the flat here. It's a pretty sneaky route here, and you love this as a quarterback when you love your matchup. And PJ does a nice job keeping his eyes down the field initially and showing. And this running back grabs the corner, keeps him in the flat, and this was an awesome throw. I mean, that was an awesome throw and catch.
Really good.
And again, that was 3rd and 10. So this was a huge. You can see it here. 3rd down. Here's the marker up top. There's the ref. 3rd down, 10. Got to get to here. And this was a big play, again, as the Browns were trailing and trying to come back. All right. Now, I'm not a Jedrick Wills truther. I think that he has a lot of room to grow, but I think this clip right here is an awesome clip by him. This guy right here standing on the Seahawks helmet is a future Hall of Famer. Okay, and the Browns blocked this thing up huge. Okay, so this is just after the corner route. Browns building a little momentum. And watch 71 get to Bobby Wagner and kind of shut him down. And everybody here is blocked up. Like, this is such a well executed play. And Jed really springs this, because if he doesn't make this block, this is a 5-yard gain. Instead, he runs Bobby Wagner 15 yards down the field, and a 5-yard gain becomes a 20-yard gain, or whatever it is, 15-yard gain. And it becomes an explosive play in the run game, because 71 gets to the second level and drives Bobby Wagner 10 yards down the field after contact. Pretty good.
These are the plays, man, where like it's the Jed Wills conversation is so frustrating at times, because you see moments like that where he knows what he's doing. He's athletic enough. He gets upfield, or he makes a great block to give the quarterback enough time to make a throw. And then you see the plays where it just looks like he's aloof and just kind of going through the motions and that's why we're in year 4 of the Jed Wills experience, and we're still having a conversation about whether or not they should extend him, whether or not he's a bust, all these different things.
Exactly, man. And his biggest thing, and my biggest, concern with him, and it's everyone, is like, does he care? Like, sometimes you're watching, you're like, do you even care, dude? Like, like you got, and I won't go there, but like his potential block was the reason we're in this shoulder conversation to this point now. But I think it's too much of this, right? It's up and down. It's up, and the good is good, the bad is bad.
And you hear Bill Callahan all the time say like Wills has the ability, and it's just about like getting it to be consistent. I'm with you on that.
All right, so we flipped the field. Okay, so now we're driving. Right, this a couple plays later. We second quarter. Again, 3rd down. All right. So it's 3rd and 3. What has Seattle done on their 3rd downs in the red zone? They've converted and they've turned them into touchdowns. And this is the difference of the game. This one's tough, because it's like right now as a quarterback, when you get this pressure in your face, immediately, or you're dropping this thing down. Like your eyes have to get off your immediate read, and you just have to find your outlet. And I think PJ does this. He does a really nice job here of moving just enough. You think of guys like Tom Brady, where everyone's like, hey, he's not the craziest athlete in the world, but he can move in the pocket just enough to make throws. And this is what PJ does here. He moves just enough to make the throw, and he just sails it, man. And even if it's on him and Njoku can jump and catch it, he's going to fall forward for a 1st down, right? So now you're going to have a fresh set of downs in the medium red area. Instead, we sail it just a touch. Njoku does make a sweet play on this. If you remember the
the one he
where he just grabs the ball.
I thought he hit the ball. I didn't think he touched him. I thought it was all ball.
Didn't. They said that like the ball is an extension of the man or something. I don't know, but
that doesn't make any sense though.
Makes no sense.
This isn't a break down the refs decision making.
But this one hurts, man, because even if this is on his helmet, or even if he can just tip it down to himself, but it's just high enough where it sails, and this is a 1st down, and we've seen Njoku make catches like this and bounce off guys and jump over dudes. Yeah. Like, he very easily, if this is between the 8 and the 5, he catches this and very easily could score here. But instead, that's how close you are. You're that close. And now instead of a touchdown or a field goal, You get no points out of it and you turn it over. I put this play on. This is awesome. Fresh off the turnover, very next play here. Greg Newsome, I think, is playing really good football. I'm hoping that he's not injured too bad. He's in the slot here. This is a really tough cover, but I think he's fantastic. This is called a big box seam. And what he does is really great, where you're running a seam out of the slot. Kevin's juice. Kevin never shows emotion. But what the goal of the route is to get to the bottom of the numbers and create this big box on the sidelines where the quarterback can drop the ball in. Well, Greg pushes his leverage and kind of squeezes him out, doesn't touch him, deflects the ball, and gets everyone juice. Kevin wants to give him a high five. Greg can't contain himself. I thought it was awesome.
I missed the Kevin high five in real time. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was sweet. I saw it on tape. I'm like, oh dang, you got Kevin to smile a little bit. All right. So Browns defense is starting to sturdy up. They're keeping Seattle from advancing any leads. I thought this play was awesome here because this was the first time I remember in real time thinking like, okay, PJ's not just throwing the ball to guys, he's playing quarterback. So he drops back here and he's looking for DPJ, right? His eyes, you can kind of see, are looking over to the left. All right, that's kind of covered up. He could have given a shot, potentially. That would have been a risky throw, but he decides not to. And now he's going to move a little bit in the pocket. But what you see oftentimes with young quarterbacks is right here, they just take off, right? He's here. He would just take off outside the pocket. I did it a million times. I used to get yelled at all the time because you get this fear, this clock's ticking in your head where it's like sack's coming. But sometimes you can just trust your offensive line, and he does that. And Amari does such a good job here of stopping his route. He's on this deep cross, this deep over right here. Sees he's in trouble, stops his route, and PJ's like, should I do it? Should I do it? He's pump faking. He looked like Baker back there, like doing one of these. And then instead he rips it right on time, right on target to Amari, and Amari just almost scores. But this was so good where PJ was able to get off his initial read, stay in the pocket, don't panic, and find your completion down the field and create a huge, huge play.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Again, so good. And then they punched that in with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt just scoring a bunch of touchdowns.
Yeah.
Okay. Next set here. This was kind of your favorite. You had mentioned this, and this was a lot of people's. MJ Emerson's playing very, very good. He had his hands full on Sunday with DK Metcalf, but I thought he did a fantastic job against him. So I love this sequence. So these are very close to back-to-back plays. This first one, you're going to see DK at the bottom of the screen run what I call a Winston route, right? It's just a deep out route from your number one. Okay. And Emerson does a great job tracking it. The ball's delivered and it bounces in there. It's an incomplete pass. All right. And you could see MJ like track that one away. All right. He keeps it in the back of his mind and he's on it. This is good coverage. 2 plays later. Here we go. Let's look familiar. They tempo into this play. Okay. So they're in hurry up mode, right? This is right at the end of the half. Okay. Same formation, same exact route. And MJ just runs it for him and picks it off on the sidelines. It was awesome. I think it was awesome, especially seeing how back-to-back plays he saw it, was on it, covered it well, registered it, felt it again, and makes this jump on this play.
Yeah, I love this one for that exact reason. I also loved it because, well, and you broke it down with the back, sort of like the same route within 2 plays. That was him like learning in real time. Like he was picking it up in real time. And earlier in the game, he had gotten beaten by DK on a play. And everyone was kind of like, oh, Emerson's got to be better there. And that was pretty obvious. And then to see him kind of bounce back and start to sort of figure some things out and hold his own against him was obviously encouraging to see. So to see a young player like that learning on the fly it's again, part of one of the beautiful things about this game, man. It was awesome. I love that.
So good. You couldn't have said it any better. I'd love to know what he was arguing about right here. I'd love to know that because he was hot. Look at him.
Yeah,
he was hot there.
I feel like I don't know. I think they talked about that on the broadcast, but I can't remember what it was. If it was like somebody else holding somebody, I don't know. Anyway,
it was something. So, all right, we're in the third quarter. Oh, this is obviously you're backed up a little bit in the shadow of your own goalpost. And again, I thought Kevin sometimes he does the screen a little bit too much. He gets into the screen game. I thought it was just right on Sunday. And he went to it a lot, but I thought his timing was very, very good. This play was fantastic. All right. Obviously, this looks crowded right here. But what I see is this. If he can just get past 55 there, Draymond Jones, St. Ignatius Wildcat back in the day.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
if he can just get through there, look at Joel Bitonio. Come on, baby. Bang. and then Njoku's awesome, man. I mean, that's a huge play. They're telling his stats. I think he's got from his 290 total yards. Zagura had this on Cleveland Browns Daily. Of his 290 yards this season, I think 240 of them are after the catch, which is insane. So he's just doing a lot on his own, making a lot up, being the crazy athlete that he is. But I thought this was a great start. And then this was awesome here too. I thought that, again, PJ playing real football. I thought initially, here's that same route, Spence, right? We talked about it earlier. They get to it a number of different ways, but you got your curl over the ball. You got your outside curl here from number one. You got another curl here. Then you got two guys in the flats. It's the same route. They just get to it a little bit differently. I thought you could squeeze one in here to Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's why I'm behind a computer screen not playing football. And PJ, this is a super throw, man. They call it a layered throw, where it's got to get up and over, the defenders in front, and then down onto Elijah Moore. Man, this is big time throw, man. Standing in, and just delivering a shot right to PJ.
It's crazy because I spent most of that game feeling really good about PJ Walker. Like, and in our group chat, like I was ready to write a whole story about PJ and how, like, hey man, like he's getting it done. He's exactly the type of guy Cleveland can root for. And then the interception at the end kind of spoiled things because it became one of those like, hey, he's just locking on a guy situations. But yeah, I mean, he had some super throws in this game. And up until that point that the game that we're going to get to coming up, he had them in position to win. So
I think here's where it kind of went downhill. I thought early on, I showed some throws to Amari that were good. I didn't show a lot of not so good plays. And there was this sense of him just locking on to Amari Cooper or his number one target. And even on that play, like oftentimes you get this feeling in your head based pre-snap. Like I said, I would have thrown it to DPJ over the middle. Like it was almost like he had determined he was going to throw it to Elijah. And this is a good one here, right? You're in the red zone. Okay, again, we're in the red area. These have to end in the paint. Okay, these have to end in touchdowns. All right, this one's tough for me because, all right, you come out and you're like, Harrison's wide open. Okay, he makes his decision right now to throw it to him, and he's like late on it. Like if you were going to make this throw, this has to be a catchable ball, and he doesn't give him a really good shot on this. But what I see is David Njoku right here. Like you could dump this thing down. You could come out of this, and once you see 27's back turned, like get this, just float one over top of Jamal Adams and jump it down to 85, and we're in the end zone.
Yeah,
instead we try to spread one,
especially with Njoku, because he's like you were talking about earlier. Like he's known for breaking tackles, getting upfield. Like the yak is kind of one of his specialties, and so you got to imagine he at least gets you close, if not in.
If not in, man. And instead we go with the much harder throw. We don't complete it. And if we just dump it down to Njoku, like you're in business, right? You're at least inside the 5. You're at least getting a first down. There's the first down marker right there at the bottom of your screen. You're definitely doing that. But again, I thought a bad decision here and a bad throw, which led to another field goal attempt there. So, all right. This one, we can be quick on this one. I just want to show that man coverage throughout the game can make a quarterback's life really challenging because he has to be accurate, okay? We had a blitz on Tony Fields. I'm a big fan of Tony Fields. He flies through the middle here and pressures Geno Smith. Now, this, in theory, should work. You got Kenneth Walker running a wheel route. He's running just up the sidelines on Sione Takitaki. Kenneth Walker wins that 10 out of 10 times and even has him beat here. A perfect throw. This is potential touchdown. But instead, you force a quarterback to be super accurate throughout the whole game, and it's really hard to do. And you see them. This is the third down. They get off the field. Just really good coverage, and that's why they don't get off the field there. They get off it here, but that's why you continue to do that play after play after play. All right, Mo Hurst. This is sweet. I just want to watch it. Like this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable from a safety.
One of the most athletic plays I've ever seen a defensive tackle make. That's incredible.
It's ridiculous. He starts the play with his hand in the dirt, right? And he does like this token. He does the token rush, and then tips the ball up in the air. Like this is great. This is a great rep at this point. Like knocked it away. Like created an incompletion, and instead he tips it up and catches it. Like that's incredible. Doing the big belly rub. I mean, that's my guy there. He's been fantastic for the Browns. What a great pickup for him in the middle of that defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, he was a guy, obviously, who he's been hurt, and like you talk about Andrew Berry, like hitting on guys and finding like pulling the right strings and all that. I believe the call is what a fire zone call, I think, here, where he kind of flashes like he's gonna rush and then he drops back, and you get him doing that too. Like, I mean, how else do you play that more perfectly? Like, he did it perfectly. He tips the ball, he turns around, has time to snag the interception. I mean, I try to think through like best plays that defensive tackles ever made, and that's got to be on the list. Like, that's incredible.
It's so
Absolutely
good,
incredible.
man. And when you're the quarterback, you're like, oh, Delpit's blitzing. I got to get this thing out. And you think, oh, I'm not going to throw an interception to a defensive tackle. But Mo Hurts is playing unbelievable football, and it was a great play.
He's actually, by the way, graded as PFF as the highest graded Browns defensive tackle. And that's including, like, Dalvin Tomlinson's been very good in his own right, but he's actually graded higher than him for the season. So that tells you a lot right
He's
there.
playing so good in the front there, and it's been paying dividends. Okay, what have the Seahawks done when we've turned it over, right? They've cashed in touchdowns. What do the Browns do? Miss opportunities, okay? So, like, this one's a huge one, all right, in my opinion, because we have no pressure, right? Right, Spence? You're back here. You feel good, right? You're doing your taxes, baking cookies, doing whatever. All right, so, like, you feel comfortable here, okay? Now, this is one where it's like, all right, Amari covered. There's my one guy. I'm covered there. All right, David Njoku in the end zone. Potentially, but we got a cover guy here and a cover guy here. Check this thing down, man. Just give this ball right now. Like, nobody's open. Nobody's open. You're comfortable. You have no pressure. Give this ball to Harrison Bryant on 1st and 10 and make this guy make an open field tackle. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't, right? But if he tackles him, it's a gain of 4. Yeah. If Harrison Bryant forces a missed tackle, you never know where this could end. But instead, we eliminate this shot here by not checking this thing down and just throwing it out of the back of the end zone. And it's like so important, especially on 1st down, to just get yards, just get positive yards. And like right now, I'm checking this thing down to Harrison Bryant and letting them try to make a play up the sidelines. But we don't do that, and we get to second down. So they're able to then move the chains. This one hurts my feelings a lot. Like, this one is painful to watch because this is one where it comes back to him just being stuck on 2, right? Doesn't get off of Amari Cooper. And you can see it here. We'll run this from the top. This is the fade ball to Amari. Just try to give your guy a chance. Well, you got to strike a balance between giving your guy a chance and getting off, because right now he's covered.
Look at Elijah Moore.
Dude, flip your hips, man. Like, flip your hips, put this ball right here. 8, catches it, runs. He's got to beat Jamal Adams.
I don't think he has a touchdown yet, but that would have been a walk-in touchdown. He would have had an easy one.
A walk-in. It's huge, right? And again, look, 3rd down, 3rd and 4, right? That at the very, very, very least, he catches it, and if he slips and falls, it's a 1st down. Like, instead, he would have catched and turned. You can see him here. Watch. He raises his hand. He's like, it's me. I was open. That was the one. And it's just like, just get off of him. It's hard, man. It's tough. You got to strike the balance between giving your number 1 a chance and getting off of him to throw touchdowns. That's really hard. All right, a couple more clips here. This one hurts it again. A missed opportunity. Yeah. Look at this.
This one had all Browns fans just beside themselves. I mean, you talk about walk-in touchdowns. That's a walk-in pick 6.
Walk-in. And like, okay, Spence, let's break this down even a little more, right? The Browns play primarily cover 1, which is man-to-man. This looks man-to-man, okay? And when the play starts, it turns zone, okay? So Denzel Ward's got zone eyes. Yeah. What that means is your eyes are on the quarterback and you're just dropping to a zone. All of these guys drop into zone. Well, Geno sees this as man-to-man, because the reason I know that is because this is a stick route where if it's man coverage, he's going to go out like this. But if it's zone, he's gonna stop his route and sit in the area. Well, Jackson Smith and Jigba reads this correctly as a zone coverage, and watch, he shut it down. Well, Geno was seeing it as man, and he throws it the out route, which, oh my gosh, like, this one ends the game, right? We're up 3 at this point, and defense is playing great. And you pick this one off. You're in the house, and things are starting to feel good. You're going to 5-2 on the year, but instead we drop it, and he knew it. He knew it right away, man. It's great coverage. It was a great play. Just didn't execute the end. Unfortunate.
Yeah.
But again,
big time.
Game of inches. Real quick one here. Elijah Moore, just a sweet route here. Always open. This dude's always open. Just really good. They got to continue to find ways to get him the football.
That's the hard thing with his story this year, man, is like he's constantly open, and it's just like the quarterback play hasn't. I'll give PJ Walker some credit in the Colts game. He found him a lot, but yeah, he just hasn't been able to. I think the quarterback play has just hindered Moore's stats this year in terms of what he's able to do, and then that's looked bad on him, and people are critical because they're like, well, what's Elijah Moore doing? But really, I think it's more so just about the quarterback situation the Browns are dealing with right now.
Well, and Spencer, even another layer of that is same thing with Donovan Peoples-Jones. And like, I thought I saw 207 routes run. He's got 8 catches for 96 yards. Like, you kind of forced his hand. Like, hey, he has to get traded at this point, to at least try to play football. It's just unfortunate for what's kind of happened.
Well, and him even more so because like his bread and butter is he's a deep receiver, over the middle of the field, go routes. And when he was being used in that way with Jacoby Brissett last year, it was perfect. But this year, there's not a lot of that going on, especially when you have a quarterback who has an injured shoulder and can't throw deep right now, and PJ Walker, who's not this great deep ball thrower either. So yeah,
exactly. There's so many layers to it all. And then back to the tape here. I mean, talk about a game of inches, right? We've been we've been waiting for Miles. Like we were all texting, like we need a Miles play. We finally get one. Look how close this is, Spence, to changing the game. This is a fumble.
Yeah. It was on the replay. It was obvious it was a fumble. Like you saw him lose it, but it was one of those that it took the right bounce right back into him. But
it just bounces off his leg. And let's say, the Browns aren't like, even if Dalvin Tomlinson scoops it, he's not scoring. But this prevents them from punting the football. And now you get the ball on the final drive up 4 or up 3 at the 50-yard line. That changes everything. Everything. And it's like you're so close. And it was just one of those days where literally when you say it, the ball didn't bounce our way. Like we're going to watch in 2 plays where the ball bounces off. We get a header. It looked like Lionel Messi get a header and it bounces right to their guy, where we have a strip sack and it bounces right back to Geno Smith. Tough. All right. Shield your eyes if you don't want to be heartbroken. Okay. This is the last drive of the game. Okay. What we have up here, sluggo, right? Slant and go. So I want to know, I'd love to see the playbook. Do they teach the sluggo to go here and then up, or do they teach it to go slant and then out? Because it's taught 2 different ways depending on where you're at. This is a touchdown. Okay. Again, this is a dagger. All right. Mari's gone. He's gone here. He catches his balance. And if this ball, Mari's running it like that first where I'm calling it straight. If this ball lands on the 50, Amari runs underneath of it and gets either 40 yards or scores a touchdown. But PJ throws it and you see it land on the outside. So it's like, where's the miscommunication? Because this is a dagger play where it ends the football game, potentially puts another score on, but definitely ends the game. And instead, our quarterback and receiver are on 2 different pages on how the route is run, and where there's a miscommunication.
This is the third down where they get the holding call.
They get the holding, on him. Yep, you're right. So it comes in from the top, and they get lucky. But this could have been a huge dagger play, and instead we miss it. And it's just unfortunate because it's like, dang, could have been the one. All right, last one. We have all seen it a million times. We've seen the still shots. This is tough. And frankly, Spence, thankfully Jamal Adams does this because this is a potential pick 6 right here, because everyone in the stadium, this is coming off a timeout, knew that we were going to throw it to Amari Cooper.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the top of the show, right? He was keyed in on Amari the whole game.
Yep. Keyed in on Amari, man. And this was the big one because he's buzzing on it. Witherspoon's tight on it. Wagner's tight on it. Obviously the ball's in the air now. And the still shot thing is tough because it's like, I don't know. It's a tough way to look at it, but in all intents and purposes, he's protected. Like Jamal Adams, when you jump in the air like that, you're no longer part of the play. Like he's going to be out. So if he just pulls this thing down and doesn't throw it there, first, Elijah Moore's cut loose. All right. That's an option, but that's probably not where you throw it. Where you throw it is Jerome Ford, and you move the chains and a massive play. You never know. You don't know what happens after that. This one's hard, man.
Obviously the debate on this is, do you run it or do you pass it? I'm inclined to say, like, you should have just run the football, and if you don't get it, then you live with the result. If you punt to them and with your defense, they give up a touchdown, then you got to kind of live with the results. And then that's on the defense for giving up a long touchdown drive, right? Or if they tie it, then I guess it's on the defense for letting them tie it. But I like, that's kind of my belief on it. But I also understand like the play call theoretically worked. But the bigger issue I have, Megs, is like if Deshaun's in there, okay, I'm a little bit better. Deshaun healthy, I should say. Like, let's add that caveat to it as well. Like, if Deshaun is healthy and he's in there on this play, then it's like, okay, fine. I'll live with the results. But because it's PJ Walker, generally he's, as you pointed out, like keying in on Amari Cooper, like where the ball is generally going to go. The decision-making may not be as sound, or he's not going to go through his progressions. And because everyone kept doing the still shot, like you said, they kept showing the guys that were open, but it was like they were on the other side of the play from where PJ was even looking. So he would have had to actually go through his progressions to get to that point, and he wasn't. So my thing is like, for who was at quarterback, I feel like it wasn't the right play call.
They put the trust, right? It's like the play call worked, like you said, but you put your trust in PJ Walker, and that's kind of where you have to live. I agree. I would have run the football, and it's obviously if they completed this, like we'd all be, we'd be, celebrating right now. What a great play! It's hindsight's always 2020 for sure, but with the way they were running the football, they had leaned on. You could tell there was a certain level of just aggression that this offensive line had in this fourth quarter, and like those Seahawks were worn down, where we were getting chunk plays, and beyond that. Jerome Ford had fresh legs. Like that was one of the things where it's like Kareem was bummed after the game. Sure, you as a competitor, you would be. And you love that out of him. Kevin even said it. But like Jerome Ford, he was healthy enough to play. He hadn't got many carries all game. Like he's got fresh legs and he was running hard. I was like, man, maybe you just keep that thing on the ground and move the chains and then have 3 more plays where you run it. You probably end up punting, but you punt with, 20 seconds left on the clock or 30 seconds or so. It's tough, man. It's really tough to see that game end that way because we showed so many of those throughout the game where it was like, hey, they were right there. They were so close. And then they weren't able to finish it. And you're like, you feel as though after you watch it, like Browns had every right in that game to feel like they should have won it.
It almost felt like Stefanski, because PJ Walker played so well, it almost felt like he put too much faith in like, hey, this guy's balling right now. Let's just let him do it. And it was like, let it fly, let it ride. And then it backfired. It was like you pushed it you pushed the envelope a little too far with PJ Walker on that one. So, listen, I think all in all, the consensus should be that Stefanski called a brilliant game for the most part. And that if it comes down to one play, like that's the play everyone's going to remember. But for the most part, like it was hard to gripe with what he did most of the day, and the game plan worked. I think you're right. Like you texted me yesterday and said they should have won this game by 14 points, and the plays were there, the moments were there, and it just didn't fall their way. But this was an awesome film session, man. I think we broke down some good stuff, and I think we sort of told a deeper story as to what happened on Sunday.
Certainly. The story's always much deeper than what you see on Twitter or X. Like everyone's freaking out. I'm a part of that group. Like it's so easy to be emotional about it. But one thing you always see, and one thing I love, is that it's never as good as you think, and it's never as bad as you think. Right? When you watch the tape, you win a game, and it's always, hey, we were this close to losing it. And you lose it, and you're this close to winning it. So keep that in mind. Those are fun to do. I hope we can continue to do them. And food for thought going into next week. If someone would have said, if you'd have told me that the Browns would have all of these injuries and be 5-3 after 8 weeks, you'd sign up for that 10 out of 10 times. So all I got to do, take care of business against Arizona on Sunday, which they should. And then you have yourself set up for a stretch run at the end. Yeah.
Well, we'll see what the team looks like from a quarterback standpoint and more coming up here today. But in the meantime, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. We, again, want to do this weekly. The idea is we release this on Tuesdays. This week's schedule is just a little bit more convoluted. So keep an eye out for them. We'll continue to put these out each and every single week with both of us, Anthony and I, breaking down the tape and giving you guys some insight into what went right and what went wrong for the Browns on any given Sunday. Appreciate you guys tuning in. You can follow along with all things Browns over at brownsdigest.com. Until next time, go Browns.